Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? We are in the midst of August. There was preseason football on last week. This week, Tuesday. We're 2 days away now from 2 or 3 days away from a full slate of NFL games.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
I'm freaking pumped. So welcome on in. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me. Rick, did you know that, I just found this out like 2 days ago. Did you know that the two teams that played in the Hall of Fame game, they get to play 4 preseason games?
Really?
Yeah, and the rest of the league plays 3.
That's kind of unfair.
That's what I said. I'm like, I'm surprised more people aren't complaining.
Interesting. Because nobody cares about preseason.
I'm like, not that it matters that much, but like, A, it's unfair for all the other teams because they don't get the extra game, and B, it's unfair for the Steelers because now they got to play, 21 games?
Yeah.
Steelers and Cowboys? I thought that was interesting. I was like, wait a minute, why did they have 4 preseason games? Why didn't they just skip this week and go into, I don't know. Either way. Right. Like I said, welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Today, we got some interesting stuff to get to. Breakout running backs. It's going to be interesting. This is where the rubber meets the road for us. These are probably my favorite episodes. The bust episodes, and then the league winner episodes are probably my favorite ones to do during the off season. But we're cruising. I look at this calendar, and all I see is like 3 weeks until September. That's me thinking very positively.
That is awesome. Are you going to be watching preseason football all week?
Yeah, 100%. I'm kind of extremely excited. Very, very excited to watch Mac Jones on Thursday.
I knew that was coming. I am too, because I haven't watched Patriots preseason game in a while. I think I did last year, but before that, it was just like another thing of like Tom Brady and whoever the backup was, and it was just like you would watch for a certain player or two for Patriots games. But this year is a little different.
We got
a lot of new faces, and we spent a first round pick on a quarterback. So
now we got to get to, because we got a lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about. But I feel like I'm wondering if Cam's going to play in the game, and if he does that mean that there really is a QB competition because it's the first preseason game?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes the starter will play in the first week, and they'll just play like the first quarter. They'll play like a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how Bill handles that. But I don't know.
All right, well, let's before we jump into the breakout running back section of our podcast, be sure to do the following. Check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on all social media platforms. Just type in the FF Champs. We're also on TikTok, so head over there and check us out on TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. That community is bumping almost at a large amount of listeners per episode.
Okay.
So share with your friends and leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube decided to wake up and arrive. So be sure to subscribe over there. Click the bell for notifications and like and comment down below your favorite breakout running back for the 2021 fantasy football season. It doesn't have to be the favorite from this episode that we gave you, but somebody that you're stuck on. You're like, I think this guy's going to break out. Leave that in the comments. You ready to jump into this, Rick?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have three guys that we're going to talk about on this episode. And they're all very interesting. Some of them have haters, some of them don't. I think these guys are pretty much, some of them are consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of them are kind of, people are hesitant more specifically to have them as a breakout for
a little iffy on them.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to start with the number one guy, and that is Antonio Gibson. And I told you in February, if you were listening, you've been here for the whole ride. I told you I was going to put him on this list.
Yeah.
I wasn't not going to. The only thing that would have prevented him from being on this list is injury. So hopefully I didn't just screw that.
Knock on wood.
But knock on wood. So anyway, Gibson, he doesn't top our list, but he's the first guy that we're going to talk about. Clearly last year he had an extremely I want to say it was a good campaign for a rookie running back, but it was up and down. And the one thing that I wanted to point out was that Antonio Gibson, he did not really have a hold on a second. My computer is crapping out. Was his snap percentage. So all of last season, he had a snap percentage that didn't really go over, I believe, 60% or something like that. The snap percentage.
Looks like he only had 2 games where he had over 60%.
Yeah, so this is the numbers of offensive snap percentage for the entire season. 26, 65, 39, 44, 56, 37, 48, 46, 38, 53, 65, 6, 30, and 59. All the games that he played. That includes games that he did not start. So I look at that and I'm like, he did what he did last year.
Yeah.
On that. And now I'm trying to find out where Antonio Gibson, RB12 through 17 weeks.
He was RB. Wow, and he missed the 2 games.
There's got to be something I'm missing here because
he missed like 3 games really because he only played like 6% snaps in the game against Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah. So
the thing for me that I look at is this is what I keep going back to I wish I could average that together, and maybe I will when Rick starts talking because I would be more fun. Apparently, Pro Football Reference doesn't average this crap for me. But like. I think he only got over 50% 4 times last year. If he gets up to 80% snap percentage and is the full-time starter for this team, he's going to be a top 5 running back.
I'm not sure how many games he gets 80% because J.D. McKissic, unfortunately, is still on the roster.
I can't. J.D. McKissic's fake news.
But even if you want to say, it just eliminates those low games. Like he's not going to get 26. He's not going to get 39. Mm-hmm. He's not going to get 38. He's not going to get 37. He's not going to get 44. Like every game, he at least stays above 50, right? Like let's say he's like 50 to 70 every week, and he just does what he did last year on those good weeks. Like, what are we doing here? Like Gibson doesn't need to get 80% carries. He just needs to consistently, or 80% snap percentage. Mm-hmm. He just consistently needs to get that 60 range, which he only did in a few games last season.
Yeah.
And those were some of his best games. The Thanksgiving game against Dallas where he had 3 touchdowns, he had 65%. So if he just can, in the last game of the season as well, he had 59%, one of his better games as well. So just staying in that range, I think he'll be very good.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm just kind of shocked when I pulled up those numbers that was that's what I saw.
No, I mean it's a good observation because like, dude, imagine if he gets what you said, like 80, like then he's RB1 discussion. He's in that. Yeah. He'll probably be like top 5 running back.
And I mean, in when you look in the I'm trying to see if I have NBC Sports Edge open. And this is not an ad for you, NBC Sports Edge. There it is. When you look at the stuff that they've been saying at training camp too about Antonio Gibson, it even gets you more excited. And I can't do this again because I feel like this guy is literally the same exact situation last year with Miles Sanders, and like I don't want to say that. True. Now there is I do want to kind of mention a little bit of like a con here, which has been. He did end up getting some form of an injury like during OTAs. I believe it was like middle of the summer, and it was like a foot injury, and it hasn't really been talked about that much since it happened, and they seem he's fine. Yeah, it was back in June 2nd. It said that Antonio Gibson still rehabbing from the toe injury he suffered late in 2020. So obviously, you don't want to chase injuries in fantasy football. And if he's still struggling with something like this, a toe injury more specifically for a running back, that's not good news.
It was 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2 months ago. So, but last year we had this similar situation happen with Miles Sanders where everyone was hyping him up and they were like, this guy's going to get all this work. And everyone was really excited. 2 weeks before the season, 3 weeks before the season, what happened? Hamstring injury. And that affected him, at least in the early part of the year. So I'm excited about Antonio Gibson. Just keep an eye on the injury stuff because I haven't heard anything about the toe injury. He's been practicing fully. Like he seems 100%. So I'm not even going to be like, okay, this is a problem. But anyway, so they've been saying a lot of really good things about Antonio Gibson. He's had a large role in the offense. Rick and some other people are concerned about J.D. McKissic.
I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I'm just letting you know he's still there.
He still exists.
Right.
But for me, I think if he gets even like over 65% of the snaps, like that's going to be good for him. And it's clear they want to get him involved. It's clear that they want to feature him in this offense. And I think that he probably is, outside of Terry McLaurin, he probably is their most potent weapon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And if that's the case, they're going to get the ball to him. So I'm excited to see what Washington does with Gibson and if it replicates into success. Because I remember, Christian McCaffrey's first year in the NFL. What did he do? RB 13, 14?
It was something in that range.
Yeah, and then everyone was like, okay, he's going to break out. He's going to break out. He's going to break out. Ended up top 4 the following season. The reason why I draw comparisons because Antonio Gibson is kind of a pass catching running back, and he also draws a lot of.
He had the comparison from Ron Rivera,
and Ron Rivera is the head coach that led Christian McCaffrey to that total in his first year. Right. So we might see that from Gibson. And even with J.D. McKissic in the offense, he still had 40 catches last year. Now, the efficiency wasn't good receiving, but he still had the 40 catches. So. I think all he really needs to do is hit 50 catches, and if he gets 250 opportunities on the ground, like all the power to him. I think he's going to be a fantastic running back in the NFL, and there's going to be some big upside there. But anyway, give me your thoughts on Antonio Gibson, Rick, because I rambled on for about 7 minutes because I love Antonio.
No, that's okay. I don't have as much as you because obviously this is your guy. I do like Antonio Gibson a lot. Have him in a lot of dynasty leagues. And if you've listened to our show since, like you said, February, we've been talking about him a lot. Saying a lot of the same things, but yeah, dude's a stud, and I think people forget how good he was before he had that injury last season. He was the RB5 before that game he got hurt against Pittsburgh, so the first 12 weeks of the season, he was RB5. I just want to point that out there, and he wasn't even starting for like the first 2 weeks, so like it's all hype. Now, to be fair, James Robinson was RB4, and look where he is now, but they also didn't draft Travis Etienne in the first round.
No, there was no replacements for Gibson.
Right, yeah. There's also been talks that they want to get him more involved in the passing game, and I think with J.D. McKissic there is a little bit of a ceiling with that, but I also think at the same time, Alex Smith loved J.D. McKissic, and is just like dump offs every time, and that's not going to happen this year. I think a big key to watch out for that, though, is the snap percentage with that, and depending on if Fitzpatrick will throw those dump offs. But yeah, I mean, Gibson, there's not too much to say other than the dude's going to be a stud. I mean, I think we've done shows before on Antonio Gibson, I believe, too, that we can always look back on. But yeah, dude, I mean, everything points to being potential RB1 for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was already an RB1 last year.
Right.
So it's like
the most. Oh yeah, he finished RB12.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people look at him and they're like, oh, the injuries and this and that. I really don't even think he compares to Miles Sanders to the previous year, right? Because Miles Sanders' rookie year, wasn't he like RB16, RB17?
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but
he was RB15, so you were close.
Yeah, so he was in that vicinity, and Antonio Gibson, I don't know if they scored the same amount of fantasy points, by the way, but yeah, I feel like Antonio Gibson has a higher ceiling than Miles Sanders had last year, if that makes sense.
Gibson scored a little less, but he played in almost 3 less games.
Yeah.
So 6 less fantasy points and 3 less games.
So we're going to have to see, obviously, A, Antonio Gibson stay on the field. B, there needs to be an opportunity share increase. And we're not talking about him, because last year, what did he have? 240, 230 opportunities. Like, he had his opportunities to have success.
He had 206 touches.
206? 206?
Yeah, 170 carries and 36 receptions.
Oh, I pasted out. Never mind. So I was like, wait a minute. Did I miss something?
Yeah.
No, I pasted out the numbers just a second ago. Okay, so yeah, again, he needs a snap share increase, and B, that I think a snap share increase will in turn create an opportunity increase for him, obviously. And if he sticks with the same efficiency, I mean, he could definitely be a top 5, 6, 7 running back in fantasy football. So I'm excited to see the Antonio Gibson breakout. I'm more sure of this breakout than I was last year with Miles Sanders, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, time will tell.
Number 2 on this list, Naji Harris. I love Naji Harris, and I remember, Rick and all of our... Sorry for the ding. That was my computer. I got my note.
How
message.
Dare you? No, I don't care.
How dare you? My computer is hooked up to the audio system right now, so I got a text message. Anyway, so Naji Harris, I remember we had a bunch of guys over. Me and Rick were together on draft night, waiting for the Patriots to not draft Justin Fields, and they all left. And middle, it was like late first round, I think. And I was putting some stuff away, and all of a sudden I heard the Steelers come on the clock, and I literally screamed for joy when they drafted Naji Harris, because that's where I projected him to go.
So you got lit.
Yeah,
you just got it right.
So I wanted Naji in Pittsburgh because I 100% believed that he was going to get 300-plus opportunities. Pittsburgh has been looking for their workhorse running back since Le'Veon Bell left. They thought it was going to be Connor. Connor clearly couldn't handle the workload. They let Connor go this season, and they brought in Naji Harris. And Naji Harris is a first-round pick, so we know the history of first-round picks. Josh Jacobs a couple years ago, right? He gets drafted, and people don't like him now, but he was drafted, and he landed in the top 10 in fantasy football. And in years prior, there has always been that first-round running back has been able to elevate himself into that RB1 status. It is a very high percentage that happens. So Naji Harris is going to come in, and he's going to get 300-plus opportunities in the Steelers' offense. I think he's, there's questions about his efficiency. The schedule is, I think, a little bit easier for him, but the offensive line blows. One of the worst in the league. PFF, I think, has it between 30 and 32. Mm-hmm. So he's bad. And that's my only concern about Naji Harris. But if he goes in and he gets 350 touches on the ground, I don't think it's going to matter as much as people think it is. Him having a bad offensive line.
Exactly. Yeah, we talked about this before the show. I know a lot of people were tweeting out mixed reviews on Naji Harris, and I saw a lot of people saying like he wasn't good, he only had 3 yards of carry and all this stuff. I wasn't too worried about the efficiency because the offensive line was not great. Now, the offensive line is probably going to stay not great, but it won't matter as much if he's getting, like he said, those 300-plus opportunities, which I think he will. It was clear in the beginning of the game when they had all their starters out that Naji was going to be the guy, and I don't think another running back had a carry in those while Naji was out there in the game. So he just had 7 carries. He had a target, a catch. It was only for 3 yards, but it was still showing that they were trying to get him involved, at least in the passing game a little bit. I think he's gonna be crazy involved this year. He might get one of the most touches in the league. The Steelers are clear. I mean, if you listen to all of them talk about him, and even ownership, which is I think a key to listen to because they might be whispering in Tomlin's ear of like we didn't run the ball great last year. We've always had workhorse running backs. We just drafted the guy in the first. Naji Harris is the guy. He's the new Steelers workhorse. He's this. So he's gonna get the opportunity. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Even as a rookie, he's going to get a ton of work this year. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned like Le'Veon Bell. When he was with the Steelers, he wasn't always getting the best efficiency numbers, but he was putting up huge fantasy points because of his opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean Naji, bro.
Yeah, I'm fired up on Naji Harris. The other thing too is that he is, and I talked about this when we were breaking down the running back position overall back in draft season, and I kind of compared a Naji Harris situation to the Naji Harris situation to Derrick Henry. My computer keeps dinging; it's driving me freaking crazy. But I compared the Naji Harris situation to Derrick Henry, except with pass catching opportunity, right?
Okay.
So he's going to get, he has the ability to get 300 carries. Like, and we're talking about rushing attempts. We're not talking about with passing opportunity. He has the opportunity to get 300 carries. I don't know if it'll happen in his rookie season just because, you know, I really don't know what the Steelers want to do with him. I don't know if they want to throw that workload on him right away. I mean, running backs last for 4 years, so you might as well just do it now. But anyway, he has the ability to carry the ball 300 times. Derrick Henry can't pass catch. He just can't. And it's like he can catch the ball, but he's not going anywhere with it. Najee's a completely different beast. He's almost the same size and the same in the same conversation size and physicality wise as Derrick Henry, but he can pass catch. So I think that's what makes him so potent. And if they do throw it to him as much as they had Le'Veon Bell and he does rush it 300 times, like you're talking about a guy that might get 350 opportunities similar to Henry. And it just,
if he does that, I mean,
if you can get it at 208 of an ADP or somewhere in that vicinity, like you're stealing. And I think like I'm excited to see what Naji does this year, but I've never been like I think that the running back position at this point in the NFL, because of the amount of RBBCs that there are, if you get 300 plus opportunities in an offense,
right,
you clearly have to be drafted in the top 10.
I mean, last year there was 10 running backs that had 200 carries. Only 10. Like that's a very low number.
Yeah.
Considering in 2019 there were 20 running backs. So it literally cut in half the amount of running backs that had 200 carries. So as you said, if you can have a running back that has that workhorse ability, you want to pounce on that.
Right. All right, let's get to the next guy because it's going to be a little bit of an interesting conversation. We only got like 5-7 minutes left. So let's discuss our final guy, breakout running back, Deandre Swift. Oh, this one's so hard for me. I'm going to let you go.
Not for me.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Deandre Swift fanboy too, so it helps. But yeah, I mean, with Deandre Swift, I think the Lions have kind of it's clear what their game plan is. They're building from the front out. So their offensive line, they've put a lot of effort into that this offseason. Penei Sewell, they signed a few guys. I think you were looking at some projections, and they had the offensive line for the Lions. It's like a top 10 offensive line in the league. Their offensive line is legit, and everything Dan Campbell has said, you know, we're going to pound it down the other team's throats. We're going to break their kneecaps. We're going to run the ball.
Like we're just going to shoot their kneecaps right off.
Right. He's the classic coach that I think is going to want to run first to set up the pass. It's all signs pointing good. Dan Campbell also said that he, quote, thinks DeAndre Swift can be very special. So all these great things about DeAndre Swift. I think Jamal Williams is something that has held a lot of people back with him, the signing of him, and I think they do want to use him, but it's not like they went out and gave him this massive contract. It was 2 years at like $3 million a year. So it's like he clearly is going to have a role, but it's a specific role, kind of like what he did in Green Bay. Swift is still very much, I think, going to be the guy there, especially once they get on the field and show like Swift is the more talented running back. But even if they use Jamal Williams, they're both going to be involved a decent amount, and I think Swift will also be involved in the passing game a lot, like he was last year. He's a very talented running back with a great offensive line and a great opportunity. So I don't think there's too much. There's too much in his way other than the Jamal Williams thing. And then I think you could also say, you know, he's not in a great offense. He did have 8 rushing touchdowns last year, 10 total in 13 games, and he didn't start in all those games either. So I'm not saying he's going to get 10 touchdowns in 13 games, but if he can get like 8 or 9 in a 16, 17 game season in a really, really bad offense, I think that'll be plenty, because I think he'll get enough work. He'll get enough catches. He'll get enough yards. It's just going to be about the touchdowns with him. But he was good last year. I mean, 4.5 yards a carry, and the offensive line got that much better. I want to see what he can do. I think Swift has real breakout potential. It's just going to matter with Jamal Williams and how much he's involved.
Yeah, like Rick said, I think the offensive line is probably the biggest piece in this whole situation, because a lot of people look at Detroit as a terrible team. And the one thing that they did this offseason, they didn't draft Chase, they didn't draft Pitts, they didn't go out and try to trade up for any one of those guys. They took an offensive lineman, and they did the boring thing. And then they went out in free agency and got some offensive linemen. And right now, PFF ranks their offensive line number 10 in the NFL, I believe. Mm-hmm. So they improved their offensive line. And that is a large piece to this situation, because everyone's going to look at the skill position at the wide receiver position and say, they don't have any good wide receivers. And that is very true. But I think that Jared Goff, contrary to popular belief, is a decent quarterback and better than probably 50% of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Starting quarterbacks, I should say. And then I would also say their running back situation is good, their offensive line is good, and they have a really good tight end in TJ Hawkinson. So yes, the receiving core is not great, but I don't think this offense is going to be as bad as people project it out to be. And I think that it's going to mean good things. And like Rick said, the head coach, Dan Campbell, wants to bite people's kneecaps off. So that whole offensive line thing goes behind that. They want to run the football, and they have said they have the running back already. What did they need to do to improve the running game? Get offensive linemen.
Right.
So that's what they did.
And do you want to know what his numbers were when he was pronounced the starter of the team?
Go ahead.
So I think it was he had one crazy big run in a game, and the next week they announced that he's officially the starting running back. From that point on, he was paced out to average 195 carries for 893 yards, which is decent, not crazy though. 11 rushing touchdowns, 75 targets, 61 catches for almost 500 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. Yeah. So 14 total touchdowns, 61 catches. I think those are 2 numbers that really popped out for me. And that's kind of my thing with Jamal Williams too. I'm not really worried about him taking necessarily too much on the ground. It's receiving. But as you said, not a lot of weapons there in Detroit. You can make the argument after TJ Hawkinson. I think Swift could be the next best receiving option on that team.
Yep, I agree.
Which could lead to a lot of targets. And that's kind of when we compare running backs in his range, a lot of people have done the debate with him and J.K. Dobbins this year because they're going back-to-back in redraft.
Right.
Or at least have been for most of the summer. And the reason I've taken Swift every time is that passing game upside.
Yeah. I think that's going to kind of be the quintessential point of this whole situation is the fact that, yes, Jamal Williams is going to be there in the backfield, and he probably will take. They talked about having this 1-2 punch and all that stuff, right? And I think that Williams is going to be there, and he might take some opportunity on the ground from Swift, but Swift could literally line up in the slot or line up on the outside or line up anywhere really they want him to and pass catch. And so I think that's what's going to set him apart in this offense is his pass catching ability. I think he gets around 200 plus carries on the ground. I think he can probably get in the vicinity of 60 to 80 catches, which would put him in that conversation of top 7-8 running backs in fantasy football. And so
he gets 80 catches that's
I know it's
that's
a lot,
dynamite.
But they've talked about him being very similar to Alvin Kamara. So yes, correct. DeAndre Swift breakout. That's all we got for this episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy
That's Football lit, bro.
Exciting breakout running backs. Get these guys on your team. They'll help you win your leagues. We have breakout quarterbacks and tight ends tomorrow, so be sure to check that out. We'll talk to you tomorrow, my friends.
See you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.